right, fans, I'm sitting here with Aror, the support from the Tartarus Titans, and we're going to make a little bit of a tier list for you. Now, remember, whenever we do these tier lists, these are always ranked based. This is going to be your queuing into support, your queuing ranked, and we're going to specify, I've already discussed with Aror, either A, if you know the ADC you're carrying with, or B, you don't, and you know how good those characters would be in that situation. We've got J-Max sitting by, controlling this from a faraway land, and besides that, let's jump into it. We're going to start with the Guardians, Aurora, and first on that list is Aries. How good do you think Aries is right now from a ranked perspective?
So, I love Aries personally, so...
You are a big Aries guy.
But in ranked right now, he doesn't really proc spikes at all.
Ooh.
If he had a good way to proc spikes, he would be S tier in my opinion.
If his chains proc spikes.
But right now, I'd say he's probably... He's very good into a lot of the mage picks that are popular in ranked, like Merlin, Thoth, Vulcan is yet. Mm-hmm. So he is not as good into Vulcan anymore because of backfire
not
change.
crippled anymore.
But still, the ult's very strong against him. But so I put Aries in B tier.
Okay, so let's put Aries in B. Now, something to keep in mind, after we place some things, you can move around. So if you figure out later, hey, maybe Aries is a little better, a little worse, we can always change that one up. But, you know, there are going to be a few Guardians on here that I feel are solo lane oriented. Now, this would have been one of those up until this patch with Manticore Spikes. Now, RDO has been playing the support role. How good do you think RDO support is at the moment?
Yeah, so Spikes just changes a lot of characters' viability. And if you can pop Spikes... you're going to be very strong right now. Even after the nerfs, it's still a very strong item. And Ardio has multiple ways to proc her spikes, and she also has a lot of ways to easily use them after you pick them up. Because a lot of characters that put spikes on the ground, but once they pick them up, it's hard to actually get the spikes off before...
That's a fair point,
So Ardio has extra abilities. So I would put her in A tier just because she uses spikes really well. She has a really good lane phase, and... her mid game is insanely strong, and if you can get fed on Ardio, you're very annoying for carries to deal with.
All right, so we're going to put Ardio into A tier. Now let's move on to Athena. So to your point, let's say you dash in, you drop your shield wall, you taunt, you got the spike, but now how are you going to proc it? You've used all your abilities. Is that the same sort of vibe, or are spikes so good that you're taunting and then saving an ability to try and proc it?
Yeah, usually as Athena, you want to taunt first anyways, then shield wall most of the time, unless you're going for like a solo play as Athena, which doesn't happen rarely. But if you're taunting for setup, you can usually get your spikes off. I think Athena is probably one step below Aries right now. I think she can be really good. I would put her in C tier right now, just because her early game is strong, but it's not as strong as some other gods. Like if you're against like an Aries, an Ardio, Yamir, like a lot of characters that are on this list, like you're just not going to be as good early on. And she doesn't scale very well because Magi's is also really popular right now as well with the new glyphs that have been added. So she definitely has a place. Like if you're ulting over to soul lane or ulting your jungler every fight, you can do really well. But right now I put her in C tier.
All right, so we'll leave Athena down there and C. Moving on, Atlas. Now, again, this is one of those picks that when Atlas first came out was primarily in the support role. Rather, we've seen a bit solo and we've been seeing a bit mid now as of recent. Is Atlas just a jack of all trades? And more so, how good is he in support?
I think Atlas in support is definitely strong. He doesn't pop spikes as easily as some of the other characters. He can pop it on his 2 if he picks somebody up. But the thing with Atlas is he's a guardian that you could always hit carries with your damage. Like it's very easy. Like you can get your ult on the carries. So if you're queuing with somebody, I would put Atlas maybe a little bit higher. Like if you're queuing with like a jungler or soul laner, like you can help finish off kills really easy with him. But if you're solo queuing, I would probably put him in B tier with Aries, because his lane is not the best. It's not horrible, but it really relies on like your hunters clear and how well they clear the wave for you to be able to fight. Because if you get pushed in his Atlas, you kind of just have to sit there. But you're very safe. So even if you do push in, you're content farming, and he's very good late game. So
okay, so a bit matchup oriented, and again, always depends on who you're trying to play through on the map. But as long as you've got some decent clear on your side, you should be sitting in lane just fine. as Atlas. Now, at the beginning of Season 9, this god was sort of running the duo lane. You could just pick Bacchus. People were popping like Frenzy on Wave 1, dropping the bracers down and getting infinite pressure. Is Bacchus still that strong, or I feel as if he's fallen off a bit?
I feel like there's always the characters in rank that are never going to be bad if you pick them, and Bacchus is one of them. I always tell people, Bacchus and Sobek, you can never go wrong playing those characters in ranked like ever. They're always going to be good. They have a lot of damage in their kits. Their early games are strong. They have mitigation as well. So I would put Bacchus in B tier as well. I think B tier is like kind of like the average tier that I'm going with right now. So you can pick him very easily. He is bad into some characters, but he pocs spikes really well, and he can also use them once he actually puts them on the ground. And he has strong early game, and the where he gets weaker is his late game. He's kind of easy to kill, and his abilities are pretty telegraphed. But if you get fed and you're able to build some damage items, you can be like very strong and take out people really fast.
Yeah, if you go like just like Thebes, Manticore spikes, and then like a Divine Ruin or something, you're just soloing carries. Like you just find the mage and say nope, you don't get to exist anymore. So that play style is still certainly viable. Aror is saying, and I will just put a little check mark next to it as well. Next up is Cabrakin. Now Cabrakin, as far as I'm concerned, plays 4 roles at the moment. He's kind of nuts with Bancroft's Claw. Do you think that Cabrakin's support is still as strong? I mean, he's top pick, top ban in the SPL at the moment. Not particularly because of support, but I think he's played everywhere. Do you think he's that good in ranked as well?
So Cabrakin just got a pretty big nerf, I'd say, this last patch, just recently.
The bonus one that just came through?
Yeah, literally yesterday, or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. They took 20 base damage off his second ability, and they took 4 base damage away from each tremor tick. So that hurts his early game a lot, and I feel like that's what made him very strong, at least in ranked. Like, you could run any lane. I still think he's going to be very strong in the laning phase and have a really strong early game, so I would put him in A tier with Artio. And he can put spikes down 2 different ways, which is really good. Like, being able to put spikes down and being able to use them is very important because his tremor is on a very short cooldown. So if you put spikes down with your 1 or 2, you're able to pick them up and then just tremor to pop your spikes very easily. So he's very strong. He's good late game. He's good early game. He's good into a lot of the meta picks right now. And he has a wall, and walls are just very strong.
Yeah,
so.
Walls have been very prioritized as well. So let's move Cabrakin over to A tier. And then we will look at someone who I feel has fallen off quite a bit. Cerberus is a very strong solo laner, but still had some support presence. And I haven't seen much of Cerb at all. With the rise of the Fae-blessed hoops and these healers, I expected to see more of Cerb. Do you think slept on, or probably rightfully so that Cerb's not played as much?
I think he's just a good pick. Like he's in that tier of like Bacchus and Sobek. Like we're gonna put him in B tier.
Okay.
I feel like he's not one of the OG gods that was out like in the very beginning, but right. I feel like ever since he's been added, he's kind of fit the same mold as like Bacchus and Sobek, where he's always going to be good if you play him in ranked.
Right.
His passive's just very strong, being able to take healing from the enemy gods. Like in lane, you take their Sentinels healing, their Benevolence healing, their health potions. And then you have a very strong ult that forces bees. And you just do a lot of damage. Like damage in ranked is very important. Just having extra damage to do to carriers or their jungler helps you win games. Because CC's good, but you got to be able to kill people to win games.
CC's good, but damage is better.
Yes.
Quote us on that one. All right, so we'll move Cerberus over to the ever-expanding B tier. Next up is Cthulhu. Now, I don't think this is a hot take by saying that Cthulhu is pretty much exclusively played in the solo lane. I think before we even sat down, you said you've played almost all of these characters recently except for Cthulhu. Is there any reason you'd be picking Cthulhu in the support role?
Yeah, I don't think you would want to play him in support. If you want to play Cthulhu, definitely go solo lane. Maybe you can do something crazy with him in mid with like the Rang does now or something. But yeah, I would put it. I'm just gonna put him in F tier, not because he's a bad god, just because I would suggest just playing a different role if you wanted to pick Cthulhu.
All right, so let's just put Cthulhu down to the bottom again. Not because he's terrible, but this isn't the role. This is a support tier list. You're not doing too much supporting there. So I actually have an interesting question about Fafnir because it does have spikes decently well, and you can actually give your spike procs to your carries. Is there gonna be a rise of Fafnir, or you think he's just in a weird spot at the moment?
I think he's another B tier character. I think if you're queuing with somebody, I'd say if you're solo queuing, he's probably more like a C tier character. But if you can play with somebody, he's probably B. So I would put him. You could just put him in B tier. If there was a tier in between, C and B,
like a C plus.
Yeah, that's where I would put him. But he's definitely strong. If you're queuing with somebody, you can go to Gold Fury and burn objective. It's a lot easier when you're playing with somebody else.
Yeah, when you have your comms on, you can just play.
You can get someone to go to Gold Fury right away, and everybody kind of migrates where the pack is. So like, if you have 2 people going there, everybody's like, okay, I guess we're going to Gold Fury. So it's a lot easier to go to objectives and do them, and that's his specialty. And then he can use spikes. The interaction with his 2 is definitely strong with it, but I would put him in B.
All right, we'll put Fafnir over to B then, and we can get to those more supporty style supports. Ganesh, I mean, I guess I've seen some hybrid builds, but more often than not, Ganesh is just sitting in the back line, peeling and then dropping that ult whenever it's engage time. Are we in a decent Ganesh meta, or because you're not proccing too many spikes, you're not the biggest fan?
Well, Ganesh actually procs spikes really well. He just can't use them. That's his problem.
Right.
You can ult people to use your spikes, but then you're using your ult. You could also use your 1, but your 1's hard to hit. If somebody's jumping away from you or running away from you, that's usually what happens after you silence them. But you're really good at putting them on the ground. I would put Ganesh in... I'll put him in C tier. I was thinking D tier, just because if you're playing Ganesh, you need a lot of help from your team to do stuff. Like, you're not gonna win games by yourself.
Yeah, you're not solo carrying any Ganesh games anytime soon.
Yeah, because you can't get kills, so you can't get really fed on Ganesh. So it's just rough. Just
a rough little C tier character. Definitely not terrible, but I see what you're saying. It's a decent counter pick, but if you're not able to use that gold to your advantage, and you're in your head, you're trying to carry these games as support players. So that's where Ganesh is gonna lie. Geb, in the same boat. Supporty wise, but a decent counter pick. The shield's always annoying. I feel like you either love Geb or hate him. Are you in the middle tier, or what are you thinking?
So I'm gonna put Geb in C tier as well, even though I think he can be like an A tier character in ranked if you're very good with him. I feel like a lot of people, what I see is people get put in support off role and they just pick Geb and they're like, yeah, I'll pick Geb. And it's like, I hate Geb. I hate playing against Geb. And they just play it and it's just terrible. So that's like a F tier if someone's doing that. But he could be really good. So I'm going to put him in the C tier. He uses spikes pretty well. His early game's kind of rough, but he does very good amount of damage late game. I feel like a lot of people overlook that. Ever since his ult got changed, he does a ton of damage. He has his shield that's very strong. And his cooldowns are pretty short. Like, his rollout is really short. So he's definitely a good character, but not as good as the other characters to win games in B tier.
Yeah, all right. Not the greatest clear in the early, and that does hurt him a bit. I did speak up about Cthulhu, and I'm going to say the same about Yorm. You may tend to agree. You can say your opinions. More of a solo lane-oriented pick, not too much peel for the Yorm, I believe. You actually ran support with like a Wheelix back in the day when Yorm first came out.
Yes.
But besides that, are you pulling out any Yorm supports to try and carry rank games?
Yeah, honestly, I've been playing him a lot recently just for fun. I'm going to put him in C tier. I think he has the potential to be like B tier with those characters, but he can pop spikes on his knock-up. Ever since they changed his knock-up, it's a higher knock-up now, so you can knock people off your carriers. You do a lot of damage. Very good lane clear. And Scepter is like a very important thing right now. He can get Scepter very easily because you can one-shot the wave. And then Scepter plus Yorm's in-hit attacks are just very strong together.
All right, so the Yorm breath and the Scepter is enough to bump him up there to C tier. We love to see that. Now, oh man, Khepri. So Khepri has been in the spot where it was just like Khepri and Emoja were sort of running the support meta. Then I think with the rise of the earrings may have fallen off a bit, but still that ult's never going to be bad. How good do you think Khepri is at the moment?
I think Khepri is very strong. I'm going to put him in B tier. He can get bumped up to A tier if you're duo queuing.
Right.
He's kind of like Fafnir where I put him in between A and B. He procs spikes really well. He has good lane clear. His ults. So here's the thing too. He would be S tier if you know you're queuing against a jungle or mid or a jungle mid duo queue even. For some reason, mid laners and junglers think Khepri is like the holy grail of Smite, like the craziest thing ever introduced. So if you're against a mid or a jungle player, then Khepri gets bumped up to S. Yeah. If you want to beat Maswal in ranked, pick Khepri.
he's gonna drop a Vulcan or a Kraken, get res, and be like, "This is dumb."
Or he's gonna Loki out somebody and then be like, Khepri.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So keep that in mind when you are playing your Khepris. Now this is an interesting take because Kumba is insane with spikes. Like I've played him a few times where you just like you walk up mez and then you can proc it with your ult and then charge your 2, proc it again, and then finish off with the 1, and you get 3 spike interactions throughout. But I haven't seen too much Kumba being played, so no pun intended. Are people napping on the nappy boy or what?
Kumba is like one of the weirdest characters in Smite, in my opinion. Like you have to go into playing Kumba like different than any other god.
That's okay.
Because you don't. His wave clear is not very good.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to just eat it in lane. So I would put him in D tier just because of that. Mm-hmm. You're gonna be so weak early on. You're gonna lose a lot of your purple buffs maybe, depending on how good your hunter is. You're not gonna be able to contest Scepter really at all. But yeah, Spikes is very strong. He's a very strong character in my opinion. But I feel like he has a very steep learning curve. Like his kit's very straightforward, but the way you have to play Kumba is just different than any other support god in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would find most people that play support for the first time sort of spam their abilities on the way, run out of mana a lot. You're usually denying your carry's farm with Kumba because you're pushing some of the minions away. So once you learn what you're doing, you're saying maybe Kumba bumps up a few more tiers.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so now let's talk about the turtle. Honestly, Kuzubo for me was always that pick that you went when you just wanted to try hard and ranked. You wanted to like build thorns and just blink on carries and ruin their day. Is that still the playstyle you'd go for, or you think there's a different way to play Kumba in support? I mean, Kuzimbo in support.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to play him. I think you want to always throw in a damage item. I think Male Renewal, ever since they changed that, very strong item on him. Because whenever you combine Kuzimbo with like any sort of healing, either with a god on your team or an item, like I remember when Stone of Gaia was really good, he was a lot better because the more health you have, the more damage you could reflect, and the more annoying you can be. So right now, I put him in B tier. He doesn't proc spikes that well, but just in ranked, he's always just a good ranked character to play. You have good CC, he's good in lane, good buff clear because he could bounce the camps. So B tier.
It's kind of a crime that he doesn't proc spikes well because he's one of the few characters that actually has spikes. Like he's got shell spikes. What the heck?
Yeah.
And that just reminds me of that clip with you and Kuzubo and the do. I was in that game and I remember.
You were in that game?
Yes, I remember him saying. I forget his name. He always used to queue with Shing. What was? I don't remember his name.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember him saying he asked Dave, who I was queued with, for Peel during that, and it was like, you died to the Kuzubo, man. It was nothing damage, but that's an iconic clip, so I'm glad we got to bring that up, just if not just for a moment.
That's funny. I didn't realize you were in that game. That's awesome.
Yeah, you were just destroying us. But let's talk about Sobek. You said was always going to be a good pick, just because I guess overwhelming aggression in lane, you can always find some picks if your plucks are on point, and pretty safe as long as you use that ult right.
Yeah. I mean, Sobek, Bacchus, and Serb, like, they have to be really bad to be below, like, B tier. Like, they have to get a lot of nerfs. Like, those gods, like, if you want to get good at some supports and you don't really main the role, like, I would suggest getting good at one of those characters because they're always going to be good. They're always good every season. And they're never going to be out of the meta completely, in my opinion. So they're always solid to learn. So I would put Sobek in B. His lane isn't the strongest if you're against people that understand him, but when you play against people that like don't respect the pluck, his lane becomes a lot stronger because then you can just threaten them and they have to play back because of it. So I put him in B tier. He does a lot of damage, has really good CC. He does spikes decently, and his ult's just always strong. All
right, so we're gonna add Sobek right next to his green brother in B tier. One more green character, actually. Sylvanas coming up next. As I said, at the moment, Emoja and Terra pretty highly contested in the SPL at the moment. I think, there's a few different changes for that. Sylvanas is one of those healers that I expected to see maybe more prioritized. Is it just because, no real walls that he isn't? Or maybe, again, he's slept on and I'm just not seeing it?
Yeah, for me, Sylvanas, I'm thinking if I want to put him in S or A tier right now. I think I'm going to put him in A tier. If there was a rank in between S and A, that's where he would go. He can use spikes really well, and he also can use Fey loops, and both those items are very strong. So just being able to use both of the strongest items, in my opinion, right now, in a role is just going to bump you up really high. He's very strong in lane. His pull is very strong in the mid and late game. You can win a game just by pulling one of their carries. It can completely change a game, even if you're behind. Very solid character, and I'm gonna put him in A tier.
Okay, so you think we should be seeing more of Sylvanas?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's bring Vanis over to A, and I do want to see more of him in the future. And I guess you sort of just described as to why, I think Terra does all those things you just mentioned pretty well. So I expect to see good things from Terra. Where do you think Terra belongs?
Yeah, I'm going to put Terra in A tier as well.
Okay.
Just same thing as Sylvanas. She's a little worse early game. She's still very strong. You can cleave the wave down. But if you get in there with Terra, like if you want to use your dash to clear the wave, you kind of put yourself at risk. So if they have a strong lane, you can die a little easier than Sylvanas. I guess the thing with Sylvanas is you die to ganks easier than Terra, but in lane, Terra can die easier. So it's just like the give and take. But yeah, she procs spikes, can use Fey loops. Both of them can use Lotus Crown as well, which is still a really strong item. So yeah.
All right, we're going to add Terra up there to A, and, we got the last two that I got my eye on, but first, to get to them, we have to go through Xing Chen. There was a time when Double Hunter was all the rage, and I think Xing Chen was pretty strong. Sort of fallen off since then, but I imagine still decent, right? The ultimate's going to get you value. Furious Roar is never going to fall off. I am, decent spike procking, I suppose. So what do you think about the Xing?
Yeah, so Xing Ten's weird. Like, if you build a damage item on him, I feel like he is a lot better. I feel like if you go full tank Xing Ten, you do nothing, in my opinion. I feel like he's one of the guardians where you need at least a little bit of damage to actually do stuff. Like, earlier this year, we saw Jake do the Chronos Rush and just dominate in the SPL with that. So if you're doing that, he's definitely better. Like, this is I was thinking about putting him maybe in D tier, but I don't think I'm going to do that to him. I think he's good in C tier right now. Ever since the CC changes as well, your knock-up root instantly puts 4 stacks of the CC DR on them as well, so it makes him a little bit worse. But yeah, so I'm going to put him in C tier.
All right, so let's move Xing Chen over to C, and now we can get to the real meat and potatoes of this tier list. The Emoja and the Ymir, two of the highest contested picks at the moment in the Pro League, at the moment of recording this, of course. Emoja has always been there. Ymir sort of had a rise to fame just because, Phantom Shell is something that a lot of people don't see themselves upgrading to, I guess. Let's start with Emoja first. Where do you think Emoja is going to go?
For me, like, I want to put her between B and A. Honestly, she uses spikes really well. She uses Fey loops really well. I think she's just a very hard character to play. So if you're going to ranked, it takes a little bit of time to learn her. If you're good at Emoja, definitely an A tier character, maybe even S tier. But if you're just picking her, I would just put her in B tier. She does spikes really well. Her lane's pretty good. Her ult's also very good, just very long cooldown. So if you mess your ult up,
I think
it definitely sucks.
I think that's the key. If you're a new Emoja player, you're going into ranked and you're missing an ult, you've essentially wasted half your team fight, and it's going to be very difficult to come back from that. So I see and respect the placement there.
Because you could always spam your heal and you always will do something in a fight. So that's why you got to put her in B tier, at least with the Fey loops, especially right now.
All right, so Emoja gets added to the B tier as well. And the last pick from the Guardian section is going to be Yamir. Pretty straightforward kit, but you do have to watch your placements, a bit your positioning as well. It is pretty easy to just pick a Ymir before the fight starts and say, we'll just kill that immobile guy and then work on the team fight. How good do you think Ymir is at the moment?
I would put Ymir in S tier right now, actually. Usually he would be like where like Athena and Ganesh was like in years prior for me, but right now he uses spikes really well, and I feel like walls are just very strong. Ever since they did the change back at the end of season 7 where you can put his wall down, he's just
where you can break it if you mess it up.
Yeah, he's just became a very powerful character. His lane's very strong. Ymir with Scepter is really hard to deal with in the early game. You can basically kill anybody in a 1v1, any jungler. I was just playing a game literally today here earlier as Ymir. And Wheelix came and ganked us when I had Scepter when we were on their purple buff, and we just won a 3v2 just because I'm Ymir with Scepter. Like, you can't do anything against that character. There's like no counterplay at all. The best thing you can do is just hope he gets poked down, overstays, and you kill him early, and then just the way the god is, he's just easy to pick off. But if you're not dying early on Ymir, you're gonna run the game for sure.
All right, so Ymir is gonna round out the full curve here and move over to S tier, and that'll be the last of the Guardians. Now, I did want to take your opinion on what classes you think could also be played in support at the moment. Are there any gods that stand out to you? I know we discussed some mages, so do you want to? We can highlight some mages, and you can just pick like one or two that you think really stand out and can be played in support at the moment.
Yeah, so mages, I would put Iset in B tier. She can use spikes like decently well.
Mm-hmm.
Her ult's very strong. She's gotten some nerfs, but just the way her kit is, she's just a very good support. Her AoE auto attack for land's really nice for clearing. So yeah, Iset B tier. Another mage would be Nox.
Oh man,
I think Nox is really, really good with spikes. I would put Nox also in the B tier. The cool thing that we saw Gamma play Nox, I think, this past week in SPL, and you can place your silence. You can pick up. You can one them after you pick up your spike, and then you can pick up another spike, and you get 2 spike procs off the same route.
Route.
Yeah,
wow. Okay, so
which is really good.
Yeah.
So she's really good with spikes. And Loto's Mask is very strong, and that's another thing that these non-Guardians can build. So just being able to get those 2 items together is great.
Just some extra tank stats. I have to imagine Baron's going to be in the conversation as well.
Yeah, I would put Baron also in B tier. Just the healing, his ult is very strong. His lane's pretty good. I feel like another thing too with Baron is that people don't respect his ult as much when he's in support. I feel like a lot of people don't really go beads for it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just pull people and get free kills and set your team up really well with that. And then the root's pretty easy to hit as well, in my opinion. Just rooting into healing your team is just very strong.
All right, so is that the last of the mage supports you want to go over?
I am looking just to make sure. I think those are like there's some other ones.
Well, I mean, I think you
good.
could play any one of these characters in support, but if we're talking just the ones you should focus on at the moment, if you wanted to learn some mage supports, I would say those 3 are at the top of your list, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Any assassins, the Najas and Fenrirs used to be quite strong back in the day. Do you think there's any value in picking them at the moment?
Yeah, I think Fenrir you can put in B tier as well.
Okay.
He's very strong with spikes too. Like you could jump on somebody, then pick up a spike, then brutalize. Glad Shield's also a really good item. It just got nerfed as well recently.
Mm-hmm.
But just being able to use spikes and Glad Shield makes you do a lot of damage.
Okay, so if you're talking about spikes and Glad Shield, you definitely have to bring up Naja and Serket in that conversation.
Yes. Yeah, Naja for sure. I would put Naja in B tier as well. Again, B tier is looking pretty stacked, but I feel like this is just they're just good characters.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong with B tier at all.
So you can't go wrong with B tier.
Yeah.
A tier, you don't want to let through, or you want to make sure you're playing them. Obviously, S goes in that conversation as well. And then C, we already discussed. If you're playing with someone, you can make those characters work, but it's usually better to stay away from them when you're solo queue.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Okay, so then we got to discuss the Serket for the time being, just because, she did go through some changes, wasn't as good with the full tank build, but does proc the Glad Shield and the Manticore Spikes decently well. Do you think still in that level of those assassins, or maybe a little worse, a little better?
I think she's still the same level. Just being able to proc spikes off your ult. I've seen a lot of people ult, and then mainly junglers going spikes, actually, I've seen in ranked.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ult somebody, and then they pick up a spike off the ground, and the spike hits them off their ult. So it makes Serket ult do more damage, which is really good.
And then you just 2 them in one after, and you could do it again.
Exactly. And her ult also got damage mitigation on it as well now, so that also helps. So yeah, she's definitely still just as good in my opinion.
Okay. So,
if not even better with spikes.
Yeah, definitely could be the itemization that just brings her up to speed as well. Last class we want to look at is the Warriors. I haven't seen too many Warriors played in the support role as of recent. First thing that comes to mind, like the Mulan, for example, that was something I think that got played for a bit. Are there any Warriors that you think are getting played in support? Or is it just the soul lane and the jungle that are dominating with this role? Oh, and the Horus. I forgot about that.
I would put Guan Yu in A tier, actually.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guan Yu pops Fey Loops really well. He's better soul lane, in my opinion, if you're going to play him in ranked. But, I mean, he's just very good in general.
Mm-hmm.
You could also put him in the jungle. I've been playing him a lot in the jungle in ranked these past couple weeks. Just being able to pop Fey Loops on a very short cooldown on a lot of people in team fights is very strong, and he can also go Glad Shield, which is just a good item in general right now.
All right, so we'll put Guan Yu in A, and then I sort of just glossed over the Horus, but Horus has definitely been played in the support role as of recent. Can proc the earrings, as you said. Is Horus still pretty decent?
Yeah, I would put Horus in B tier as well. Again, as a warrior pick, I think he's very strong. He's also a good spike character. The earrings on him are good, or the Fey Loop. I guess they're both earrings, but the Fey Loops are good on him, but not as good as like a Guan Yu, Terror, or Sylvanas.
Right. You're not proccing the heal as much, so it's not going to get that much value. So we'll put Horus over to B, and then we get a final look at this list, and you can just take a look at everything. Is there anything you'd like to shift up or down? Any last minute changes you'd like to add, just so you can finally get the full effect of what you're looking at here?
No, I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. I think there are a lot more there's a lot more characters that we haven't put on here that you can make work. Oh, one other character I want to put in B tier actually is Shiva. Shiva's very good right now in support and ranked. That's the last character that is coming to mind. But yeah, he's also another good warrior.
Just crazy early pressure, I think. Shiva just, the knock up into the sweep just gets you like infinite pressure, and if someone's not holding onto their beads or just like steps too far up in lane, you can get a first blood off that combo, or at least the second iteration of that combo if they are trying to fight you at lane.
And you could also group up your wave like for certain characters to help clear the wave faster, which is really nice.
Yep, so that is going to be Shiva to B tier. And now we've got a full list here. For those of you at home, you can take a screenshot of it, tweet at us. We'll tell you why you're wrong if you think that any of those are not where they are supposed to be. Aurora, thank you so much for stopping by and making this tier list with me. And we will be right back with some battle sounds.
Hey, wait, what did it win?
You win the respect.
You're telling me an alien wore this?
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, that was a good cut.
Messaging him to mute.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course, and I can probably watch a stream on the side.
Content's gonna look good.
Pretty good, pretty good.